Part 66. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 651. But I didn't see any sea surface at all, which is outrageous. Of course it's correct. Tan Kinja said a little guilty. But looking at Suliang's suspicious eyes, Tan Kinja immediately said, "Why don't we go somewhere else to play? I have also made a lot of plans, and there are many places to play." Tan Kinja said to Suliang confidently, "Let's go in that direction. There is a very magical mountain there with many magical flowers and plants on it. It's very beautiful. It's already a pretty amazing sight, so of course you have to go see it with your man." "Really have?" Suliang glanced at his sister suspiciously, but still nodded. "I didn't find it just now. Maybe it was a mistake made by my sister, who occasionally pointed in the wrong direction. My sister is still very reliable, so there should be no problem." Then the two of them flew with their swords again and rushed in that direction. However, an hour passed, and Suliang had already seen the holy mountain and holy land from a distance. We are about to reach the territory of the devil before our eyes. But I still haven't found the magical mountain that my sister mentioned. "Are you sure you remember correctly?" Suliang said helplessly. "If we go further, we will reach the territory of the devil's path. I remember that the place you mentioned is obviously on the right path. Perhaps, maybe the location has changed due to earthquakes or something over the years." Tan Kinja guessed weakly, but listening to her tone, she could feel her guilt. What kind of earthquake can move a mountain to a place where it can't be found? Suliang was speechless and held his forehead, feeling that his sister was really enough. Isn't it enough to find excuses and reasons? The world is so big and full of wonders. Tan Kinja smiled awkwardly, but facing the expressionless Suliang, she quickly stopped laughing. She herself felt that the reason she was looking for was outrageous. Totally untenable. "I think we should go home directly," Suliang said helplessly. "If we keep turning like this, we still don't know where we are going to turn." "No, there are still a few places we must visit." Tan Kinja firmly rejected Suliang's proposal. "I have been looking forward to those places for a long time, so I definitely can't miss them." Okay, let's go see it again." Suliang reluctantly agreed. "But if we can't find it, we will go home directly." Vaguely, Suliang already felt that his sister seemed a bit unreliable this time. "I got it," Tan Kinja said, very dissatisfied. Really, Liang doesn't believe anyone at all. Not happy, very unhappy. This time, it was Suliang who flew with his sword the whole time. He walked several places in Tan Kinja's direction, but Suliang didn't see any of the wonderful sights his sister told him about. At last, looking at the location of the Zongtutan family not far away, Suliang turned to look at his sister with an expressionless expression. "Sister, tell the truth, are you ready?" "Of course it's done. I read the records before setting off," Tan Kinja said with a guilty conscience. "I took my husband to search several places, but found nothing. At last, instead, he wandered around and went straight home. What's going on? If I had known this, I would have just taken my husband home, so that I could get along with my husband for a while. It's better than wasting half a day on the road." "So, what record did you see?" Suliang asked again. He always felt that there was something wrong with the records his sister read. There was a big problem. "Look, this is it." Tan Kinja took out a book and handed it to Suliang. Suliang took it and took a look. "Geography of Kyushu." Judging from the name, it doesn't sound like something weird. I opened it and took a look. The records were very detailed and well-founded, and even came with their own pictures. It can be said to be a very good record. If you search according to such a geographical annals, You can't find it no matter how hard you look, right? But for some reason, Suliang still felt something was wrong. It seemed that he vaguely saw the names of several cities, and they looked very familiar. Where have you seen it? Where is it? Thinking back carefully, Suliang suddenly realized. He had clearly seen some of these things in his simulation with Yuji. In other words, this is an ancient map. No wonder, there is information about the abyss marked on it. In ancient times, wasn't it the invasion of hundreds of tribes from foreign lands? Use ancient map paper to search for it, no wonder you can't find it. Countless years have passed, and I don't know how many peerless experts have been born during this period. Changing the terrain and so on, it is simply not easy. Even Suliang concluded that many of these were the author's conjectures. After all, when hundreds of tribes from foreign lands invade, even the most powerful people will not run around the world at great risk. How is it possible to find this? Sister, you can actually find the geographical annals handed down from ancient times. It's really a thank you to you. Suliang said helplessly. Where did you find this thing? I don't blame Tan Kinja, I can only say that this thing is too new, as if it had just been printed, and it is also mixed with some things that still exist in this era. Unless Suliang and Yuji came to see it in person, no one would be able to tell. Hey, is this something from ancient times? Tan Kinja looked at this geography book in surprise. But, my aunt gave this to me. She said she asked for it from Sister Yuji. The content is very rich and true. No wonder, this was clearly his master who asked Yuji to trick his sister. Unexpectedly, my sister actually believed it. So, am I being tricked by my aunt? Tan Kinja blinked, still a little hard to digest this fact. My condolences, master has no ill intentions. Suliang patted his sister on the shoulder. Otherwise, there would be no Tan family halfway to the last location. If my master had been more ruthless, he and his sister would probably have reached the end of the world now. We'd better go home quickly. Looking at his mother-in-law who was approaching not far away, Suliang comforted his sister and said. It's not too late to play again when we're on our way back. I'll just be at home these 2 days and try to figure out where to go. Tan Kinja nodded, but her expression was still a little dull. Just because of my aunt, I actually wasted half a day with Lang Jun. How can I accept this? Unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. At this moment, concubine Tan had already arrived in front of the two of them. The good son-in-law is finally back. Concubine Tan held Suliang's hand and looked Suliang up and down with a very kind smile on her face. Even I can't see through the cultivation of a good son-in-law. It seems that you have experienced a lot during this time. The more I look at this son-in-law, the more satisfied I become. While holding Suliang's hand and walking back, concubine Tan said. When I come back this time, I will stay at home for a few more days and treat it as my own home. But, what happened to Kinja? Seeing her daughter's dull look, concubine Tan couldn't help but ask. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 652. Chapter 863, Grievance Complaint. He told concubine Tan what he and his sister had experienced. Concubine Tan couldn't help but cover her lips and chuckle. The two girls, Kinja and Wanking, have been like this since they were young. Don't worry about her, she will be fine by herself later. To this, Suliang nodded, deeply convinced. It's not like he doesn't know what his sister and his master were like in the past. It can be said. In the hands of my master, my sister has been tricked countless times. This time is not many, and my sister has long been used to it. With a little recovery, she can recover and become her energetic self again. No problem at all. Pulling his sister who was still in a daze, Suliang followed concubine Tan to the Tan family. Everyone who came and went greeted Suliang respectfully after seeing him. This is true even for those high-level family elders. In their impression, Suliang's strength was still in the realm of immortality. But just with the strength of the immortal realm, he can actually crush all the proud and powerful people in the middle and lower levels of the Tan family. This is already amazing. Not to mention, not long ago, Suliang united the good and the evil, and led the people from the good and the evil to repel the invasion of the abyss. During that time, Suliang's personal strength may play a small role. But with his own power, he united almost all the forces in the world and arranged them in an extremely reasonable and orderly manner to defeat the invasion of the abyss. Such ability and prestige are really amazing. Concubine Tan attended that gathering and meeting with many family experts and elders. Naturally, having witnessed the scene with his own eyes, Suliang was even more shocked. Is such a person actually the husband-in-law of my own lady? Isn't this just too awesome? Therefore, everyone in the Tan family was extremely respectful and polite to Suliang. Even the elders were very satisfied when they saw Suliang. However, Suliang, who knew nothing about this, seemed a little confused when he saw that everyone in the Tan family treated him differently from the last time. "You kid, don't you even realize how scary what you did before is?" Concubine Tan took Suliang's hand and said with a smile. "By integrating the two paths of good and evil, your prestige now is not much weaker than that of the two holy lords and the Supreme Emperor." Auntie was joking. "If it weren't for He Yingju Hengchen's support, I wouldn't be able to do this," Suliang said very humbly. But his reaction made Concubine Tan even more satisfied. At a young age, you can be neither arrogant nor impetuous. This is extremely rare. Chapter 567 Chapter 566 Mother-in-law's fatal question. Not to mention, he could call the Holy Lord and Emperor by their names so affectionately. Those are two people who stand at the top of this world. My son-in-law is a bit unbelievable. They took Suliang and Tan Kinja all the way to Tan Kinja's small courtyard. Concubine Tan casually threw her daughter on a chair aside, but pulled Suliang to sit in front of her and said with a smile, "I have been sending people to clean this yard, just so that you two can come back and stay for a few days. Ahem, I will definitely bring my sister back to see you often in the future." Suliang coughed slightly in embarrassment. "Why do you always feel that here in Concubine Tan, you have become the bastard who kidnapped someone else's daughter? As long as you have this intention." Concubine Tan shook her head, looked at her girlfriend whose eyes had regained some energy, and said softly, "This girl of mine is a bit stupid. When she's with you, you must help her more." "This is natural, Auntie, don't worry." Suliang quickly agreed. "Speaking of which, my sister is more helpful to me." And the moment Suliang finished speaking, Tan Kinja on the side finally came to her senses, immediately jumped up and got into Suliang's arms. "Mom, my aunt bullied me again, you must avenge me. I was bullied by my aunt before and couldn't do anything about it. That was because the misunderstanding with my mother had not been resolved yet. As for now, my mother loves me so much. Although I was bullied by my aunt, I can let my aunt take revenge. Although my aunt is very powerful, she is totally useless when facing my mother. She is restrained by her sister. This time, look how dare you bully me." However, in response to Tan Kinja's crying, Concubine Tan just gently stroked her little head with a faint smile on her face. "Okay, you call Wan Qing back first, and I will avenge you." As soon as these words came out, Tan Kinja was immediately embarrassed. "Mother, see for yourself, what are you talking about? I finally have time to play alone with my husband, and you still want me to call my aunt over? When my aunt comes over, do you think I can still touch my husband? It doesn't exist. Although it's not my aunt's turn yet, she can definitely snatch her husband away from others, making it difficult for them to even see him once. Ahem, I thought about it and let's forget it for now. Tan Kinja said a treat, immediately sat up and sat aside. We are all a family. I think I shouldn't worry too much about my aunt. Knowing how to retreat when faced with difficulties is what a wise man does. To this, Suliang and Tanfei couldn't help but laugh. Especially Suliang. While I was laughing, I was also somewhat relieved. From the beginning, when talking about the Tan family, everyone's face darkened, they were very unhappy and unhappy. Now, I can't wait to return to the Tan family. Once I return here, I become like a little girl, completely losing the majesty and coldness when I was the sect leader. At this moment, she really let go of all her worries and completely regarded the Tan family as her true home. Of course Suliang didn't dare to take credit. But no matter what, I feel a little gratified and proud, and feel full of accomplishment. And just when Suliang was relieved, Tan Kinja was already nestled in concubine Tan's arms and said coquettishly, "Mother, have you prepared anything delicious for me and Ailiang?" "Girl, you already have a husband as you wish. Why, you still don't know how to cook for yourself?" Yes, but I just want to rely on my mother's craftsmanship." Okay, I happen to prepare some rare things, and I will bring them to make for you and your wise son-in-law later." But then, concubine Tan changed the subject. "Speaking of which, why did you and your son-in-law suddenly think of going home?" "Of course it's because I miss you." Tan Kinja's little head slipped into her mother's arms and rubbed her, feeling very attached to her. "Come on, I don't know you yet." Concubine Tan didn't believe these words. "After you had your husband, you forgot about me as a mother. In such a long time, you have only come back once, bringing a good son-in-law with you. This is only the second time." As soon as these words came out, Tan Kinja immediately felt a little embarrassed. "It's just that I've been a little too busy lately. Running around with my husband, almost never stopping, it was indeed a bit too busy." Seeing what my mother was about to say, Tan Kinja quickly changed the topic, pulled Suliang and said, "Mother, the food made by Ailiang is very delicious. Why don't you let Ailiang cook today?" On the dinner table, Tan Kinja and Tanfei sat at the table, chatting happily, waiting for Suliang to bring the last delicacy. "Mother, let me tell you, the food made by Ailiang is really delicious." As if she was showing off some treasure, Tan Kinja said to her mother in a very proud tone, "I guarantee it's a taste you'll never forget after eating it once." Inexplicably, Tan Kinja thought of the dessert her man made for her for the first time. "Although now, I have eaten the same dessert many times, and I have even tasted something more delicious. But the surprise and satisfaction of that dessert remain in Tan Kinja's memory and cannot be forgotten. There is always something special about the first dessert you eat." From then on, no matter how delicious Suliang's other dishes were, Tan Kinja had a special liking for one. It's not that she doesn't eat anything else, it's just that every time that dessert appears, Tan Kinja always eats it with great joy. And faced with the praise of his own daughter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 653. Concubine Tan smiled lightly and nodded happily. "Well, then I'll have to look forward to it." Actually, whether Suliang's food is delicious or not is not an important matter to Concubine Tan at all. The most important thing is to see my daughter happy. As long as her daughter is happy enough, everything is enough, and Concubine Tan is already very satisfied. At least it seems so now. My daughter is very happy, and it is this happiness that is most important. Soon. Suliang brought up the last dish and placed it in front of his sister and mother-in-law, with a little apology. I'm really sorry. I don't really recognize some of the ingredients. I tasted them a little and matched them according to my own understanding. I really can't guarantee the taste. After all, this is a world of immortality, so it would not be surprising if any magical ingredients appear. Suliang had indeed never seen the rare ingredients that Concubine Tan mentioned. He could only taste them a little and then match them according to his own understanding of the taste of the ingredients. As for the taste of the finished product, Suliang really can't guarantee it. Chapter 568 Chapter 567, When stealing a house, you have to do it early so that you can have something hot to eat. It doesn't matter. Those ingredients are indeed rare. Even if I cook them myself, I may not be able to guarantee the taste. Concubine Tan smiled and shook her head. Kinja keeps talking about how delicious your food is, which makes me curious. Now that it's all here, I'll start tasting without any hesitation. Say it. Tan Fei picked up a chopstick and put it in her mouth to taste it carefully. Immediately, his eyes lit up and he couldn't help but nod. Well, it tastes surprisingly good. At least it's much better than my cooking skills. Picking up a chopstick again and tasting it, Concubine Tan's eyes became even more surprised. I've never had anything so delicious. The flavor of the seasonings in the food made by Suliang is not too strong. Under the various complicated cooking methods, the most authentic taste of the ingredients is preserved and maximized. As expected, it was highly recommended by my daughter. It is indeed very good. Yeah, right, let me just say, Liang is very powerful. Tan Kinja said very proudly, as if her mother was praising her. However, Concubine Tan is not used to her own daughter. She glanced at Tan Kinja lightly and said softly. Liang made this for me, what does it have to do with you? Liang is my husband. So what? It seems to be the same as what you made. I would like to try what you make, but I have never tasted it. As soon as these words came out, Tan Kinja was instantly embarrassed. Ever since she was little, she really hasn't done anything for her mother. After all, the relationship had been like this before. How could she have the heart to cook something delicious for her mother? Although the relationship was later restored, the time was still short after all. She didn't stay at home for a few days in total, and there was no chance. Ahem, I'll do it next time, I'll do it next time. Tan Kinja said awkwardly, not knowing when her next visit would be. But even so, Concubine Tan still had no intention of letting Tan Kinja go. While tasting the delicacies made by Suliang, Concubine Tan said, could it be that when we are at home, our virtuous son-in-law always cooks the food? Others have done it too, okay. Tan Kinja said with a guilty conscience. It has been done before, but only a handful of times. The few times she occasionally had a meal with her sisters, there were only a handful of times when she cooked delicious food for Suliang alone. Did you? Concubine Tan immediately caught the key words in her daughter's words. In other words, not a few times at all. Is there any way to do this? Who makes the food made by Liang so delicious and others can't compare with it? How can we do this? Tan Kinja said dissatisfied. Why do I feel like my mother is always talking to Liang? Am I your daughter or is Liang your son? My mother-in-law has finally gotten close to her, but she treats her husband better? What's going on with this faint feeling of jealousy? Not happy, very unhappy. Soon. After finishing lunch, Suliang naturally picked up the plate and planned to clear it away. Xianxiang, please take a rest. Cooking is very tiring. Concubine Tan immediately stopped Suliang. Just let girl Kinja take care of these things. Is this appropriate? Suliang said hesitantly. Leave it all to me. Tan Kinja, however, was full of confidence and took the initiative to tidy up. Although I'm not as good at cooking as Aoyang, I'm still good at packing things. That's all you can do. Concubine Tan glanced at her daughter and took Suliang directly to the yard to chat. Certainly. Mainly Concubine Tan asked, and Suliang answered. While drinking tea and chatting, although it was just after the New Year, the afternoon sun was lazy and leisurely, very comfortable. Looking at the scene from a distance, Tan Kinja actually felt a little warm. Soon after packing up everything, Tan Kinja skipped to the yard and snuggled directly into her husband's arms. Even her mother approved of her relationship with her husband, so what's there to be embarrassed about? The key is, let my mother see how much in love she and Aoyang really are. Subconsciously hugging his sister, Suliang listened carefully to his mother-in-law's questions. But then, he heard his mother-in-law say, speaking of which, you have some free time now, and your cultivation has reached a very good level. Come to think of it, you should have a lot of free time recently, right? It's okay, there really isn't anything important lately. Suliang answered, and in sync with his sister, he picked up the teacup on the side and drank. Next moment. In this case, shouldn't it be time for you to have a child? Concubine Tan asked with a smile. When the time comes, just bring it home and let me take it with you. Hear this. Suliang and Tan Kinja sprayed out immediately. Chapter 865, Let Yourself Go Tan Kinja. They only stayed at Tan's house for 2 days. On the morning of the third day, Suliang and Tan Kinja left decisively. No way. The enthusiasm from the mother-in-law is simply unbearable. All kinds of care made Suliang feel a little uncomfortable and at a loss. Not to mention, what Concubine Tan asked that day. It really shocked Suliang and Tan Kinja. Why is mother so enthusiastic? Tan Kinja asked with some confusion. Obviously the last time I went home, my mother didn't have this attitude. Although the last time she went home alone, the timing was a little tricky and she was at her most nervous. But as a daughter, she didn't enjoy this treatment, right? About this question, Suliang wisely chose to shut up and not answer. I always feel that no matter what I answer, something is wrong. It's better not to speak, it won't be wrong if you don't speak. Suliang still understands this truth very well. He muttered to himself for a moment. Tan Kinja calmed down and hugged Suliang's arm. Let's go, Aoyang, let's go play. In the past few days, she has prepared a strategy at home. Already know where to go. This time, without the interference of my aunt, there must be no problem. Okay, where are we going? Suliang nodded and responded with a smile. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 654. Of course, Suliang would not refuse his sister's request. Let me take a look. There seems to be some fun place nearby. Tan Kinja opened the thick notebook she had recorded and searched carefully. Seeing this, Suliang was helpless. The two of them went out to play for a few days. Now that they have rested for a few days at Tan's house, there is even less time left. My sister actually made so many records? When are you going to play this? Is it really necessary? But then, Suliang shook his head helplessly and sighed. The more this is the case, the more it shows that my sister is looking forward to this trip. Forget it, as long as my sister likes it, I can just stay with her. As long as she can be happy. And just then, Tan Kinja said in surprise. Found it? Immediately. He handed the record he had made to Suliang and pointed to one of the pages. There seems to be a real coast near here, and there seems to be a place called Echo Valley near the coast. It is said that if you stand at the mouth of the valley and shout into it, no matter what you say, there will be overlapping echoes in response. It is very magical. Moreover, The stone seemed to contain some kind of magical material that can record sounds. It will record everyone's voice. When someone activates it, they will hear the sound left behind. At this point, Tan Kinja's eyes showed a hint of longing. If we could record the love between us. It's a very romantic thing to think about. Is there such a magical place? Suliang was also quite surprised. It was indeed a creation of nature. It was really magical. In this case, you really must see it. Let's go. After getting Suliang's approval, Tan Kinja was even happier and was about to set off immediately. But this time, Tan Kinja's record was indeed correct. After flying with the sword for a while, the two of them saw a coast. This coast is very remote and sparsely populated. There are almost no people along the long coastline. And the water is extremely clear and the beach is also very clean. It can be said to be a very rare place for vacation and leisure. Can't wait to drop the flying sword. Tan Kinja took off her shoes, stepped on the beach wearing only a pair of stockings, and ran happily. The soft and small jade feet wrapped in black silk stepped on the sand, which was soft and warm, making a rustling sound and feeling very comfortable. Tan Kinja just wanted to lie here with her husband, motionless. And the other side. Suliang skillfully arranged a sword formation to block all sight and detection from the outside world. After doing all this, he followed in his sister's footsteps. Seeing Tan Kinja's happy look, Suliang couldn't help but smile and said, "Sister, slow down, we still have a lot of time." "I don't want it. I finally came out to play once. Of course I want to have a good time." Tan Kinja was not happy. She even turned around, took her man's hand, and ran towards the sea. "Let's go, Aoyang, let's go play quickly, don't worry so much anymore." Obviously. At this moment, Tan Kinja has let herself go a little bit. But Suliang felt a little helpless. But we didn't even change into swimsuits. Although it's not like you didn't bring a change of clothes with you, you'd still feel very uncomfortable just wearing your original clothes when you go into the water, right? Let's talk about it later. Tan Kinja didn't care about these details at all, and rushed in with her men. Moment. Suliang felt like his whole body was being submerged. When he came out of the water again, he suddenly realized that he could not find his sister. "Sister, stop hiding, I've already seen you," Suliang said helplessly. There must be a limit to playfulness. My sister must be hiding in the water, looking for an opportunity to scare herself, right? With my sister's current cultivation level, how could she be submerged by a mere amount of water? Doesn't this look down on the powerful cultivators? However, next moment, Suliang was suddenly startled and looked down subconsciously. "But I saw it. Under the clear water, my sister was hiding inside, looking at me with a smile on her face. And now, my sister is already in a state of having nothing." He grabbed Suliang's clothes with both hands. Before Suliang could react, Tan Kinja suddenly exerted force. Tear. After a tearing sound, the clothes finally came away from Suliang. Hey, sister, what are you doing?" Suliang felt a little panicked for no reason. No wonder I felt that my sister had been unusually calm these past 2 days. Compared with the previous battles that lasted until dawn, the 1 or 2 in-depth exchanges in the past 2 days could be said to be a holiday for Suliang. Originally, Suliang thought it was because his sister felt a little embarrassed at home. But now it seems this is obviously waiting for today. "Sister, please calm down, how about we discuss it?" Suliang said subconsciously and had the idea of running away. "I always feel like if I had run a little late, I would have had to crawl out of here today." But how could Tan Kinja give Suliang this opportunity? Next moment, Tan Kinja took hold of the future with her own words. Hiss. Suliang almost took a breath. It's over, it's all over. Forget it, now that everything is over, there's nothing to worry about. In the end, it is still unknown who will win and who will lose. Even Sul Yang, his wife, can handle it. She is just a sister, so she is not afraid at all, okay. Chapter 866 The Gap Between Imagination and Reality. It was not until the afternoon that Sul Yang and Tan Kinja changed their clothes. Looking at the gradually darkening sky, Sul Yang said helplessly to his sister. It seems that there is no way to see Echo Valley today. How about we go there tomorrow? No, there is no time at all tomorrow. Tan Kinja shook her head and said firmly. It's still early now, we'll set off immediately and we'll be there soon. Why does it have to be today? Sul Yang asked curiously, wondering what the reason for his sister's persistence was. To this, Tan Kinja just shook her head and said nothing more. Her time will come tomorrow, so she will go back and let her aunt come. And according to her understanding of her aunt, I'm afraid my aunt took the initiative to come over before dawn, right? At that time, my aunt will not give herself time to continue playing with her husband. So, you must seize the time, don't waste every minute and every second. Seeing that his sister didn't say anything, Sul Yang shook his head and didn't ask any more questions. He probably already guessed the answer in his mind. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that 3 days had passed since I and Benjeo returned to Tiandao sect before my sister came to find her. And this time, tomorrow will also be 3 days. Chapter 569 Chapter 568, Auntie, how stupid are you? Thus. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 655. If they said they didn't arrange it, Sul Yang wouldn't believe it. Good guy, you have arranged your own time, is that okay? He shook his head and got rid of all the inexplicable thoughts in his mind. Sul Yang used Fijian, took his sister's hand, stepped on it, and said with a smile. Since my sister wants to go, let's set off immediately. I will control the flying sword, and it will be faster. After all, Sul Yang's cultivation at this time was already much stronger than that of Tan Kinja. Under Sul Yang's full command, it might only take an instant to reach the destination. Unless Sul Yang and Tan Kinja deliberately control it, it would be difficult to see the flying sword flying all the way and being flirtatious like in the past. Waiting for his sister to stand in front of him, Sul Yang put his arms around Tan Kinja's slender waist and held her tightly in his arms. Immediately, activate the flying sword and turn it into rainbow light, soaring into the sky. Just a moment. Tan Kinja felt her eyes blur, and then, the flying sword stopped unexpectedly. Are we there? Tan Kinja asked a little confused, although she knew that her husband was very strong, but such a fast speed, was it a bit too exaggerated? Well, it's already here. Sul Yang smiled and nodded, pointing down to a valley not far ahead. If I'm not mistaken, that place should be the Echo Valley that my sister mentioned. Look in the direction Sul Yang pointed. Soon. Tan Kinja's eyes widened. Okay, look good. I saw. In the huge valley not far away, there are jagged rocks, each of which looks like a perfect sculpture. But no matter how you look at it, there are no traces of artificial excavation. And the entire valley, because of these strange stones, is shining with a slight blue light. It looks like countless blue fireflies are flying in it, and it looks extremely gorgeous. And because the sky was already dark at this time, these blue fluorescents looked more obvious and magnificent. As expected, you should come at night. Tan Kinja said proudly. If we came during the day, this view would probably be greatly reduced. Yes, sister's decision is the most correct. Sul Yang said with a smile, although it was a mistake, as long as his sister can be happy, that's enough. Yang, let's go down and take a look. Holding Suliang's hand, Tan Kinja said excitedly. From the top, it's already so wonderful. Wouldn't it look better if you entered it? To this. Of course, Suliang had no objection. He used the flying sword and dropped it directly. As soon as it landed in the valley, Tan Kinja's beautiful eyes widened unconsciously. I saw. The strange rocks in the sky before his eyes were all shining with a bright blue light, illuminating the entire valley. It was as if countless elves emitting blue fluorescence were flying in it. It looks extremely gorgeous and makes people forget to leave. Ailiang, isn't this too beautiful? Tan Kinja held Suliang's hand and murmured. And as her words fell from the depths of the valley, there was a resonance, one after another, each one repeating her words. Moment. Tan Kinja blushed. I didn't feel anything when I said it. But now, I feel like my words are being heard by the whole world. Why is it that I feel so inexplicably ashamed? Why is this feeling different from what I imagined? It's a bit subtle and shameful. Seeing his sister's shameful look, Suliang couldn't help laughing. Sure enough, there is still a bit of a gap between imagination and reality. However, the moment Suliang's laughter fell, Suliang's laughter also echoed throughout the valley. This time, Suliang's face also darkened. He could actually feel how his sister felt. This feeling of having every sound you make being infinitely amplified is indeed a subtle sense of shame. Never mind this, let's go see what's written in those stones. Tan Kinja quickly put aside the sense of shame, and after rapping her voice with true energy, she said to Suliang. Okay. Suliang nodded. Of course he knew that this was what his sister was looking forward to the most. The two of them came to the echo stones together, input some true energy, and activated the contents. Immediately. Hey, can this really record my voice? Hey, it's really possible, it seems that I was right to leave that idiot niece and come here. Of course, I can't let her know about such a good thing. Oops, if it can be recorded, won't she be able to hear what I said when she comes here in the future? A voice that was very familiar to Suliang and Tan Kinja came from them, chattering. The moment they heard this voice, Suliang and Tan Kinja's faces darkened. Why is she my master, aunt? So, had she been here a long time ago? I really didn't expect that I can hear my master's voice here. Especially Tan Kinja, she just wanted to hit someone. Auntie, how stupid are you? It's simply outrageous. Forget it, I won't listen. Tan Kinja said somewhat angrily. Immediately, she found an echo stone herself, secretly hid aside and said something. After a while, she hid the echo stone in a very hidden place, and then returned to her husband with satisfaction. The words I wanted to say to him and all the love I had for him in my heart had already been recorded in it. This time, I am very satisfied. Chapter 867, Wan Qing comes to visit in the middle of the night. After seeing the scenery that I have longed for, I am satisfied. Tan Kinja and Suliang found a nearby city and rested for a night. Early the next morning, when the sky is just getting dark, Tan Kinja felt itchy on her face. It always feels like someone is blowing gently on my face. Confused, he opened his eyes a little and looked at the sky that was not yet bright outside. Tan Kinja murmured softly. Ailiang, don't make trouble, it's still early, let me take a rest. After all, when I got here last night, it was already not too early. After eating something hastily, Tan Kinja called her husband for half the night. Calculating carefully, she actually didn't have much rest in total. Of course I haven't rested yet. However, when she finished speaking, she wanted to continue sleeping for a while. But I still felt like someone was blowing on my face. Why is Ailiang so energetic? You haven't had much rest in total, okay. Chapter 570 Chapter 569, To make up for the regret, peach blossoms will bloom for you. With a helpless sigh, Tan Kinja stretched out, but encountered something on the other side of her body. After feeling it carefully, why does he look so much like his husband? Since the man on this side is my husband, who is on the other side? Moment. Tan Kinja woke up and immediately looked to the other side. Immediately, I saw my aunt at a glance. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 656. Look at my husband again, he is still sleeping well. Even. In order not to disturb her husband, Wan Qing also specially arranged something like a formation to isolate her husband. No wonder, someone came into the room and my husband hadn't woken up yet. After all, it is my aunt's aura, which is not enough to make my husband wary. After putting on her clothes helplessly, Tan Kinja looked at her aunt. Auntie, why are you here so early? It's my turn, why can't I come? Wan Qing sat aside, her beautiful legs crossed, elegant and dignified. The time is up, you should go back. Hearing this, Tan Kinja subconsciously wanted to cry. Is this retribution? I had snatched my husband away from my disciple before. What now? It was his aunt who snatched the husband away from her. This feeling is really uncomfortable. She felt even more uncomfortable when she thought about how she had been fooled by her aunt and wandered around for a long time. No, revenge must be taken. It was fine that I couldn't see my aunt before, but now that I have seen her, how could I just let her go like this? But you can't beat yourself, and others are no match for your aunt. It seemed that if his mother didn't take action, he would have no advantage at all. But now, my mother is not with me at all. Why not let your aunt take your husband back home again? Tan Kinja thinks this method is very good. Then, a smile immediately appeared on Tan Kinja's face. Where do you plan to go with Liang next? If you don't have a goal, why not go home together? In the past 2 days, my mother has often mentioned my aunt. Wan Qing looked at her niece with disdain and said disdainfully. Are you going to let me go back and ask my sister to teach me a lesson for you? Humph, do you think I will be fooled? I tell you, I won't go back. Of course, Wan Qing knew that her prank could not be hidden for long, and she also knew that her niece would definitely want revenge. She knows her niece very well, okay. But precisely because of this, she will not be fooled. I don't want to go home by myself and be sent to my door to be lectured by my sister or something like that. As for where my good disciple and I are going, that's not what you need to know. Wan Qing waved her hand. If nothing is wrong, you should leave quickly and don't disturb my good disciple and me's time together. Hear this. Tan Kinja stamped her feet helplessly and walked out feeling a little disappointed. It's okay if his aunt snatched away his man. He still couldn't find any way to take revenge. This feeling is really uncomfortable. Snort. Waiting for you to go back and see how I can retaliate against you. Auntie, this matter is not over yet. Tan Kinja's figure finally disappeared. A smile appeared on Wan Qing's lips. Standing up, the long embroidered dress slowly fell off. Wan Qing removed her isolation from Suliang, lay down next to Suliang, hugged Suliang, and rested her little head in his arms. Next moment, subconsciously, Suliang turned over and held Wan Qing tightly in his arms. Sure enough, the arms of my good disciple are the most comfortable. After finding the most suitable position, Wan Qing rubbed it and closed her eyes. The other side. In a daze, Suliang always felt that something was wrong. The one I am holding now must be my sister, right? But when did my sister get so old? It shouldn't be. I measured it myself last night. Isn't this completely different? But the breath coming from his arms was equally familiar and reassuring. Well, the person must be right. Maybe I was too confused in my sleep, so my perception was wrong, right? No matter so much, just sleep a little longer. Suliang closed his eyes again and fell into a deep sleep. Time flies. Early the next morning, Suliang opened his eyes in confusion and said in a daze. Sister, morning. Humph, I've been sleeping with him all night, how can I still recognize the wrong person? Wan Qing's slightly unhappy voice came over. She's not your sister. Master. Suliang suddenly woke up and looked at his master in front of him, feeling a little confused. Master, how did you? Didn't I sleep with my sister in my arms last night? Why did he suddenly become his master? Is there something wrong with this? No wonder, while half asleep and half awake last night, I always felt that the scale was not right. It turns out that someone has been replaced. I miss you so much. I haven't seen you for many days. Wan Qing pouted and nuzzled into Suliang's arms, acting like a baby in all kinds of ways. So, people can't wait to come to you. One thing to say is that the coquettish behavior of a holy and charming and beautiful lady like my master is really a bit overwhelming. Especially when it was still morning, Suliang felt even more unbearable. For a moment, the murder weapon was hidden, which was very dangerous. He, as expected, my dear disciple, you miss me too, right? Wan Qing immediately noticed the mood of her good disciple. Instead of avoiding it, he even moved forward. Immediately, Yashao explored all the way and accurately grasped the future. It's still early, but we still have plenty of time. He leaned close to Suliang and whispered softly into Suliang's ear. Wan Qing exhaled like blue, her voice was soft and charming. So, good disciple, whatever you want to do, you can do it? These words are simply encouraging Suliang. So, sister left last night. Suliang endured it with difficulty and asked. Why, do you still want me to be with Kinja? Wan Qing raised her eyebrows. No matter how much Suliang denied it, he refused to listen, and suppressed Suliang instead. Humph, let's see if you still dare to miss someone else when you are with me. Wan Qing hummed softly and began to teach her disciple a lesson. It wasn't until almost noon that Suliang and Wan Qing came out of the room. When checking out, the shopkeeper was dumbfounded. He remembered that Wan Qing was not with Suliang last night. One night, there was a new person? Although they are not the same person, they are equally stunning. This is really a bit too powerful, right? After walking out of the city, Suliang looked at the sky and said helplessly to his master. Shall we find a place to eat now? By the way, when I was in the city just now, my master took me all the way out. Suliang even forgot that it was almost noon, and they hadn't even eaten breakfast. Don't be in a hurry when it comes to eating. Wan Qing shook her head. I'll take you to a place where we can eat. Where to go? Suliang asked curiously, not guessing at all. You will know as soon as you follow me. Wan Qing said with a smile, taking Suliang flying all the way. The speed was not too fast, and he was not in a hurry. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 657. Looking at the rapidly changing scenery below, Suliang suddenly thought of something and asked curiously. Auntie, you two have discussed it and arranged the time, right? Otherwise, how can we explain such a regular schedule of several days for one person? Why can't I understand what you are saying? Wan Qing pretended to be confused, blinked, and said to Suliang. See this. Suliang immediately understood that his guess was definitely right. Otherwise, my master would not treat me like this. After being with his master for such a long time, Suliang can be said to know his master too well. Even if she doesn't speak, Suliang can know what she is thinking. Helplessly holding his forehead, Suliang didn't know what to say for a while. Since his master doesn't want to admit it, what else can he do? Of course I'm pretending not to know anything. While the two were chatting, Fijian flew very fast and soon arrived at the place Wan Qing mentioned. The moment I saw this, Suliang's eyes softened. It was a peach blossom forest. Even though it is the new year and it is a very cold time, the peach blossom forest is still a pink color. Just one look at it makes people feel better unconsciously. And outside the peach blossom forest, it seemed that the formation was arranged by his master. Because of the effect of this formation, the entire peach blossom forest was covered up. Unless it is someone with Wan Qing's permission, or someone whose cultivation far exceeds Wan Qing's, no one will be able to detect the existence of peach blossom forest, and they will not be able to enter at all. And the moment I saw this peach blossom forest, the past events when he first met his master and the experience in the simulation emerged in front of Suliang's eyes. Is this where it turned out to be? Suliang sighed. Here, master has brought me here before, right? Of course I came. Wan Qing nodded. Go down, let's go there to rest first. Say it. Wan Qing controlled the flying sword and landed directly in the peach blossom forest. Surrounded by peach blossoms, Suliang looked up. I saw. All around him, even to the places that are beyond the reach of his eyes, are filled with the color of peach blossoms. In the forest, the peach blossoms danced and fell, as if it was raining petals, gorgeous and magnificent. And on the ground in the forest, there are actually traces of the snow that fell during the new year. When you step on it, it makes a creaking sound. And because of the effect of the formation in the forest, snowflakes occasionally danced, accompanying the sky full of peach blossoms, which looked very romantic. Obviously, two things that are almost impossible to appear at the same time actually appear here together at this moment. This feeling, while gorgeous, gave Suliang a sense of time confusion. I can only say that he is worthy of his master. It is a bit outrageous that such a magical formation can be arranged. Fortunately we came early. Wan Qing looked at the flying snowflakes and breathed a sigh of relief. Otherwise, in a few days, all the snow will melt, and we will never see this kind of scenery again. It is indeed beautiful. Suliang sincerely appreciated. I really want people to live in seclusion here and not be interested in worldly affairs from now on. After hearing this, Wan Qing showed a longing smile. After all, it is our own place. If we have time in the future, we can come and take a look at any time. Yes, I know. Suliang nodded, stretched out his hand, caught a petal, and placed it on his master's head. Then he laughed. It's quite pretty. As expected of master, no matter what the combination, they all look good. Huh, that's right. Wan Qing snorted softly, feeling very proud. The two were chatting, holding hands, and walking in the peach blossom forest. For a while, the atmosphere was warm and ambiguous. Time passed slowly, and soon it was noon. Looking at the peach blossoms all around, Suliang felt a little embarrassed. How on earth are you supposed to cook in a place like this? In such a romantic and beautiful scene, there is a feeling of smoke and firelight. No matter how you think about it, it seems a bit inappropriate, right? There is a house in front of me that I built just for today. Wan Qing said with a smile. Come on, let's do it there. What about the ingredients? Has master prepared it? Suliang asked curiously. That's not the case. After all, I don't come here often. The ingredients I prepared will go bad in a few days. Wan Qing shook her head and said. In the past, before she met her master, Wan Qing came here often and spent a whole day standing under the peach blossom tree. But now, I follow Suliang here and there every day, but I haven't been here for a long time. Moreover, the master is already by his side, and the existence here is more like a kind of nostalgia and yearning. It's okay to bring his master to see him, but there is really no need to come here by himself. But then, Wan Qing smiled playfully and pointed at the peach blossoms in the sky around her. But, these are ready-made ingredients. My dear disciple, you can't do it, can you? Do you use peach blossoms to make delicious food? Suliang raised his eyebrows, feeling somewhat interested. Although I have basically never done this, in such a scenario, just thinking about it a little, seems to have a lot of creative ideas in my mind. In the peach blossom forest, eating delicacies made from peach blossoms. Thinking about it carefully, it seems pretty good. It can be said that it is quite suitable for the occasion. Then, Suliang nodded. Leave it to me. I won't let master down. Immediately, Suliang found a sufficient number of clean peach blossoms, and together they went to the hut and walked into the kitchen. And outside the house, Wan Qing found a recliner, lay on it, and looked at the peach blossoms in front of her, and then at Suliang who was busy in the room behind her. A happy and sweet smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. I have really been looking forward to the scene for a long time. Today, it finally happened. How on earth did you do this? Wan Qing was eating the delicious food made by Suliang and couldn't help but ask. It feels delicious. In front of two people. A table full of delicacies made from peach blossoms. Chapter 571 Chapter 570 Now I am the master, and you are the apprentice. And these were all done by Suliang with great effort at Wan Qing's request. Certainly. It also comes with other things. Otherwise, this thing wouldn't be enough to eat at all. It's just a dessert mixed with some peach blossoms. Suliang said with a smile. Because of the addition of peach blossoms, it just has a little more color and flavor of peach blossoms. It's not a strange thing in the first place. As expected of a good disciple, he is just amazing. Wan Qing couldn't help but give Suliang a thumbs up. As expected of the master, he is simply omnipotent, and all these things he makes are so delicious. Looking at the peach blossom-like pink color all over the table. Look at the sight of these peach blossoms falling and dancing all over the sky next to you. It can be said that it is extremely suitable for the occasion. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 658. The two of them finished their lunch. Wan Qing took Suliang, who wanted to rest for a while, and went straight to the depths of the peach blossom forest. My good disciple, let's spar, shall we? Isn't this necessary? Suliang said hesitantly. It's not that he doesn't want to learn from his master, it's mainly because he's worried about losing his master's confidence. After all, at this moment, after he came out of the abyss, his cultivation level jumped up and transcended this world. In theory, it's quite strong. It's hard to say whether my master is my opponent or not. Thinking back not long ago, Wan Qing was still a being that Suliang could only look up to. But now, well, the situation has indeed undergone some subtle changes. I can only say that time is really a wonderful thing. Why is it not necessary? Wan Qing was very unhappy and took Suliang's hand. Think about it carefully, I haven't taught you for a long time, and I don't know what your strength is. Doing this is also a test of your strength as a master. After all, I am still your master now. Do you still know that you are my master? The master pinned his apprentice to the bed every day, and often competed with his own apprentice's wife for his apprentice. Have you ever seen this kind of master? But Suliang really didn't know how to refute Wan Qing's words. No matter what his cultivation level is, Suliang will always regard Wanqing as his master. This will never change. Since my master must compete with me, then just pay a little more attention to yourself. As long as it's not too much, it should be fine, right? And if the two of them really fight with all their strength, and it is difficult to stop, the peach blossoms around them will probably turn into powder. Suliang couldn't bear to destroy such a beautiful scenery. Then Suliang nodded. Okay, just listen to master. That's pretty much it? Wanqing nodded with satisfaction. He touched Suliang's little head. Wanqing then stayed away from Suliang, without using a sword, and just took a stance with her bare hands. See this? Suliang naturally did not pull out his sword. Although he has never practiced boxing and has basically never fought with two fists. But at his current level of cultivation, the power he can exert with his fists is not small. The essence of power is the same, and the difference between swordsmanship and boxing is only the way of application. With a little insight, Suliang was able to come up with several techniques that could be snatched by others and cause a bloody storm if they were thrown outside. Therefore, since neither of them used swordsmanship, no one suffered too much. After brewing for a while, at the moment a flower petal floated in front of the two of them. Suliang and Wanqing suddenly took action and rushed towards each other. In a blink, the two of them had exchanged dozens of moves, but neither of them used their full strength. Feeling the power belonging to her disciple coming from her palm, Wanqing couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Should I say that I am worthy of being a master? In such a short period of time, he has already achieved such outrageous strength. Perhaps most of this is due to chance. But if you don't practice hard, your talent, understanding, and hard work are not enough. Even if there is an opportunity in front of you, whether you can get it or not is still a matter of doubt. Even if it is already in hand, it is not certain whether it can be digested. Luck and opportunity are never for those who are not prepared. After another collision, Wanqing suddenly took a few steps back, made a gesture of closing her hands, and said with some melancholy, "As expected of you, you are a good disciple. It has only been so long now, and I am almost no match for you as a master." Master is joking. Disciple can only look up to master's strength. Suliang followed his master's words and complimented him without any intention of blushing. I make my wife happy, what is there to be embarrassed about? Moreover, my wife is already very strong, okay. There are probably few opponents in the entire world. But at this moment, a narrow smile suddenly appeared on Wanqing's lips. Immediately, he suddenly took action, suddenly came to Suliang's side, and punched Suliang. With Suliang's trust in Wanqing, how could he have imagined that his master would suddenly act like this? Caught off guard, he was punched out by his master. But his fists didn't have much strength, so Suliang didn't feel any discomfort. And immediately after, Wanqing tapped her toes on the ground and caught up. He held Suliang's hand and stopped Suliang's retreat. Immediately, with a little effort, Suliang was pulled into his arms. Immediately afterwards, before Suliang could react, Wanqing took Suliang's hand and started dancing. To be honest, Suliang rarely saw his master dancing. But at this moment, he was so shocked that he subconsciously had to cooperate. The dance is graceful and the steps are gentle. In the midst of the flying clothes, the wind blows back to the snow, like a phoenix dancing in the sky, gorgeous and wonderful. Especially the feeling of coexistence of charm and holiness makes people unable to help but indulge in it. Looking at the dance of his master. For a while, in front of Suliang, scenes seemed to appear one after another. It was a complete story, and he couldn't help but join in and dance together. Then, in this peach blossom forest, snowflakes and peach blossoms are flying all over the sky. The master and apprentice dance together, and the scene is very gorgeous. After a long time, the two of them slowly stopped dancing. Master must have been preparing for this dance for a long time, right? Suliang held his master in his arms and said with a smile. For some reason, he always had a very familiar feeling in the previous dance. It was as if I had experienced that story before. Well, I have indeed been preparing for a long time. Wan Qing nodded, preparing for this day from the moment she saw you. Fortunately, this day has finally come. Wan Qing put her arms around Suliang's neck and said softly. Carry me into the house. Suliang nodded and disappeared with Wan Qing. Chapter 572 Chapter 571, Suppressing the Whole Sect, It's Too Late to Apologize Now. Early the next morning, Suliang and Wan Qing packed their things and left the peach blossom forest. Although the scenery here is good, it is still a bit too monotonous. After staying here for one day, everything Wan Qing wanted to do was already completed. For Wan Qing, there was no point in staying here anymore. In Suliang's view, of course it was his master who had the final say. As long as my master can be happy, that's fine. Wan Qing controlled the flying sword and curled up in Suliang's arms, feeling satisfied. Although I practiced kendo with my disciple all night last night, I am not tired at all today. If there wasn't somewhere else to go, I could have stayed in the room with my disciple for the whole day. You won't get bored at all, okay? Suliang stood behind him, hugging his master, and asked curiously. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 659. Master, where are we going? Looking at the direction in which my master is heading, it is not the direction of the Tan family at all. Could it be that my master, like my sister, has found a place to go on a date? Go back to the section. Wan Qing said lazily. I haven't been back for a while. Let's go back and see what's going on in the section. No matter what, I am the Taoist master of Fukang Taoist sect. Of course I have to go back and take a look at my sect. Thinking about it carefully, it doesn't seem like a long time since I last went back. After all, when Suliang united the strengths of good and evil to fight against the abyss, it was Wan Qing who returned to lead Fukang Dao sect. But after that time, she immediately left the sect and went to the Holy Land to meet her disciples. At that time, the war had just ended, and there were still many things to deal with. I don't know how they handled it. It should be fine, right? Wan Qing thought carefully, feeling that it shouldn't be a big problem. After all, he has been away from the sect a lot recently, so they should be used to it. Besides, as my disciple, you also need to be seen by the elders and disciples in the section. Wan Qing said to Suliang very seriously. Although the last time Suliang followed him back, he basically met everyone he was supposed to meet. But after all, the last time I went back was to solve the mark left by Yuji on Suliang. It was so hurried that it didn't count at all. Okay, Master has the final say. Suliang spread his hands and said nonchalantly. Anyway, all you have to do is follow your master. As long as my master likes it, I can go anywhere. But I haven't been home for a long time. Master, don't you want to go home and have a look? Suliang asked curiously. I won't go back. Wan Qing immediately rejected her disciple's proposal. My niece just brought her disciple home, and just 2 days later, I brought him back again? Why do you think this feels a little wrong? And what are you going back for? See how your sister dotes on her man? It's simply impossible, right? Chatting all the way, the two of them moved very fast, and in just the blink of an eye, they were already in the sky above Fukang Dao sect. Looking down from a distance, Wan Qing said proudly. Look, good disciple, this is the sect that my master defeated for you. How about it? It's awesome, isn't it? Yeah, that's great. Master is great. Suliang complimented completely. It's not like I've never met Fukang Dao sect, so I really don't know what my master is so proud of. This isn't my first time here. The two landed together in the courtyard where Wan Qing lived. Looking at the familiar things around her, Wan Qing had a smile on her lips. Finally he's back again. Although when I lived here before, there was no master accompanying me at all. But after all, I have lived here for a long time, so there should be some feelings in it. Opening the door and looking at the relatively clean room, Wan Qing nodded with satisfaction. It seems that those people are very conscious and know how to clean my room. In this regard, Suliang said he had nothing to say. For you, the sect leader who is often away from the sect, it is really not easy for them to remember to clean your room. But think about it from another perspective, if they forget this, doesn't it mean they have forgotten the existence of you as the sect leader? In this case, you're afraid you won't be able to come back, right? Wan Qing naturally didn't know what her disciple was thinking. After putting all her things away, Wan Qing took Suliang's hand. Let's go find those elders and ask them to gather all the disciples. What are you gathering disciples for? Suliang asked a little confused. Of course I want them to get to know their senior brother. Wan Qing said seriously. Although you made a lot of noise when you came back last time, there are still many people who don't know you. This time, let everyone get to know each other. Is this necessary? Suliang asked a little confused. Of course it is necessary, you are my apprentice. Wan Qing nodded seriously. Furthermore, with your current cultivation level, you can ask me to give up my position to you as Taoist master immediately, okay? I don't want this Taoist master like you. Suliang refused on the spot. Are you kidding me, Taoist or something, how could I do such a troublesome thing? Just talking. Wan Qing smiled and took Suliang to find many places in succession. However, only one or two elders were found. Where have everyone else gone? Wan Qing asked curiously. Besides, I think there seem to be a lot fewer disciples in the inner sect, right? Does the Taoist master not know yet? The elder said confusedly. Recently, a secret realm that seems to have existed in ancient times has appeared. Various sects are competing for it, and the losses are considerable. So, all the major sects have discussed allowing the talented disciples in the sect to enter and compete for opportunities. The other elders and those disciples have already gone there. Hey, there is such a fun thing. Wan Qing blinked and said to Suliang emotionally. Why don't we go and join in the fun? Okay. Suliang nodded. It's rare that my master is still interested in such a secret realm. Just go and see it yourself, it should be interesting, right? Then, the two set off immediately and flew away in that direction together. And at the same time, the people from Fukang Dao sect who had already arrived encountered some troubles. After all, the only ones who can participate in this level of competition are those sects, and each sect is personally led by the Taoist master. Their high-end combat power cannot be underestimated. But there is only one Fukang Dao sect, led by several elders. Regardless of what Tianjiao is like, Fukang Dao sect is no longer an opponent based on this high-level combat power alone. Now, they have been excluded and are watching helplessly as other sects discuss whether to disqualify Fukang Dao sect without any solution. Resist. The strength is simply not enough. Several elders put together are not enough to fight alone. No right to speak at all. If you get involved, you will get more opportunities for nothing. There was a Taoist master standing with his hands behind his back. He was so enigmatic that his breath alone made the elders feel breathless. So, you'd better quit. As a human being, you should have some self-awareness. No, this is something that our sects have discussed, how can we be excluded? The elder could not help but retort. However, refuting is of no use at all. The Taoist masters just glanced at the elder sideways and ignored him again. Do you have the strength to veto our decision? If not, who will listen to you? As for the existence of Wanking, of course they knew, and even knew about Suliang's strength and reputation as Wan Qing's disciple. But so what? These two people are still in the Holy Land and have not returned. By the time they come back, everything here will be over. It's too late. If you want to cause trouble again, there is no valid reason. And these elders naturally know this truth. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 660. Therefore, everyone was downcast and a little helpless. What else can be done? Their Taoist master is not there at all, so they have no way to resist. With a sigh, an elder said, "Forget it, let's go back with the disciples. When the Taoist master comes back, we can settle the accounts with them." As for finding their own Taoist master, they had never thought about it. They don't know where their Taoist master is. I heard that it was in the Holy Land before, but after that, it disappeared without a trace. Even if you want to look for it, you can't find it. But at this moment, above the sky, a majestic coercion suddenly descended. Unprepared, all the Taoist masters fell to the ground in an instant. Immediately afterwards, the figures of Wan Qing and Suliang fell from the sky in front of everyone. I would like to see who is so brave that he dares to bully my people from Fukang Dao sect. Wan Qing snorted softly, her voice was extremely cold, and the flash of murderous intent made people tremble with fear. Bullying the people in my sect while I'm away? Is this possible? Not to mention that his disciple is by his side now, the two of them together might be able to push these sects flat. Even for Wan Qing herself, it would not be a problem to defeat these Taoist masters. Misunderstanding, this is a misunderstanding. Someone immediately shouted loudly. They didn't care about losing face. Just a breath could suppress them. Wan Qing's strength had far exceeded their expectations. If they don't find a way to explain it, none of their disciples will survive. Not to mention, there is an even more terrifying Suliang. In their impression, Suliang's cultivation level was not too high, he had just entered the realm of transcendence. But standing behind this boy are two of the pinnacle figures in the world, the Holy Lord and the Demon Lord. Who dares to provoke this? I'm afraid if I messed up on the first day, the entire sect would be gone without even having to stay overnight. Misunderstand? Wan Qing snorted softly. Tell me, what is the misunderstanding? We were rude. We felt that without the protection of Master Wanking, the disciples of Fukang Dao sect would suffer heavy casualties. A Taoist master quickly apologized. If Taoist Master Wanking returns tonight, the disciples of your sect will naturally be fine. We are willing to send you a congratulatory gift to congratulate Taoist Master Wanking on his return. It was obviously a gift to apologize, but it was said in such a fresh and refined way. It can only be said that they fought hard enough to gain a little face for themselves and their section. In that case, let's forget it this time. It's just a misunderstanding. Wan Qing nodded and said nothing more. She didn't intend to offend so many sects at once. This time, she only brought her disciple back once in a while, not that she would never leave again. It doesn't matter to her, but for the sect, such behavior will bring a lot of trouble. It's better to show your kindness after showing your force, so as to increase your goodwill. After sending those Taoist masters away, Wan Qing asked the elder who led the team. What is going on in this secret realm? When Wan Qing appeared just now, the elder almost burst into tears. Finally, my Taoist master is back. When Taoist was needed most, Taoist finally came back. Quickly wiping away his tears, with some excitement, the elder told Wan Qing the whole story of the secret realm. This secret realm suddenly appeared here not long ago. Since it appeared, various sects have sent many people to investigate, and the results were quickly obtained. There are indeed many resources and opportunities, some of which are even useful to Tao masters like them, but correspondingly, the degree of danger has greatly increased. There are some dangers inside that can only be dealt with by transcending the realm. Naturally, every sect would not want to miss such a secret realm. Then they started fighting with each other. However, the strength of each sect is not much different. Without the Tao master taking action, it is difficult to determine the winner. Then, this is the only way to do it. The genius disciples of each sect go in to compete for resources, while the Taoist masters or elders of their own sects follow and protect them. Generally speaking, as long as we encounter a disaster that is not in the transcendence realm or can only be dealt with by the peak of the immortality realm, we protectors cannot take action. I see. Wan Qing nodded and touched her chin, but suddenly looked at her disciple beside her. Speaking of which, as my disciple, you are naturally a disciple of my Fukang Dao sect, right? Me. Suliang pointed at himself, thought for a while, then nodded and said. That's probably it. That'll be easy. Wan Qing clapped her hands, very satisfied. In that case, just go in with the disciples. As soon as these words came out, even Suliang was shocked by his master's operation. Master, is it really okay for you to cheat like this? It's not that there's a problem with his identity, it's with his strength. Now that Suliang's strength has transcended this world, let him compete with a group of proud men from various sects and disciples who have barely reached the realm of immortality. Isn't this a bit too bullying? To be honest, Suliang can take care of those Tao masters by himself. We are clearly following the rules. What's wrong? Wan Qing gave her disciple a strange look. Chapter 573 Chapter 572, the cultivation level is beyond this world, and it is not considered a genius. If you said this, I would be really speechless. Suliang was silent for a moment. Indeed, no matter how strong he was still a disciple of Fukang Dao sect and could be considered a younger generation. Your cultivation is beyond this world, so you are not considered a genius? Isn't this a joke? Can only say. The person who made this rule never thought that someone like Suliang would exist. After discussing it with my disciple, Wan Qing turned around, patted her disciple on the shoulder, and said to all the disciples. Everyone, this time, let your senior brother lead you. As soon as these words came out, a burst of fierce cheers immediately broke out. Everyone follow senior brother. Wan Qing stood in front of a group of Fukang Dao sect disciples and shouted loudly, with a happy smile on her face. There are still many dangers ahead, so don't fall behind. In response to the words of their Taoist master, all the disciples of Fukang Tao sect nodded. Immediately, he turned his attention to the young man standing in front of everyone. Suliang, the senior brother of Fukang Dao sect. As for this title, Suliang said that he just wanted to hit someone. Why did he become the senior brother inexplicably? Who has seen the senior brother who has only been to the sect twice? It's simply too outrageous. However, Wan Qing was very satisfied with this title. In her words, Suliang was a disciple of her Taoist master, and he was originally a bit senior. Even if they started a little late, they are still the inner disciples and even the disciples of the elders. You should call him senior brother. Certainly. Except for those whose strength exceeds Suliang. But are there any disciples who are stronger than Suliang now? Let alone disciples, even the elders are no match for Suliang, right? In this way, Suliang should be the senior brother. But for this result, none of the disciples objected. To know. Just before, when Suliang was still in the immortal realm, when he followed Wanqing to Fukang Dao sect, he had already defeated some of the most powerful geniuses of Fukang Dao sect. His cultivation level is outstanding, and his strength is ridiculously powerful.